Hello, I'm your host, Kelly Eckhart, and welcome to The Future Edit. Hello and welcome back to The Future Edit. I am your host, Kelly Eckhart. And today, oh my God, I'm so excited about my guest. I have Make Gabriela. She is an expert in human design, one of my favorite subjects. And we've already been chatting for a few minutes and it's super exciting. And we're just going to get on with it and have her talk about herself and how her journey to human design, and then explain a little bit to those that don't know about it. And if you don't know about it, you'll get to know about it and you'll want to know more. So, hi, thank you for being here today. Appreciate it.
Hi, I'm so excited. Yes.
So,
thank you for having me.
I thank you. Maike right now is in the Maldives on holiday and she's taken this time out to be with me. So thank you. But as she said, this is her favorite subject in the world. So let's have an exciting conversation. So tell me about yourself, kind of a little bit about your background, and then how in the world you discovered human design.
Okay. So I used to work in fashion. Before I became a human design reader, I had my own sustainable underwear business.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, and it was like beautiful and super inclusive and everything was like fair trade. And I did all the image and I did the casting and I did everything basically.
Yeah.
Bootstrapping. And it was like a really beautiful project. Like it was all about, encouraging self-love and all these things. And this was like before it got super trendy. So like 5, 6, I don't know, like a couple of years ago. Okay. And yes. And even though everybody around me was like encouraging me and the project was beautiful, I wasn't able to make money from it. I wasn't able to live from it.
Yeah.
So at the same time, literally that I launched the project, that I launched the brand, I also got pregnant. And I was like, okay, so now I have 2 babies that I have to get on. When my kid was born, when my daughter was born, it was like the first 4 months I was like still working, I don't know, ridiculous amount of hours.
Yeah.
And I was literally like working 14 hours a day, writing 120 emails a day. And I was like, this is not working. Why is this not working? I'm doing everything I've been told to do. I've done like all the research. I've done I was doing everything everybody told me I had to do, and it was still not working. And it didn't make sense because it was such a great project. So I knew that something was missing. And the typical thing that you do when you're like, frustrated and desperate and just don't understand things, you keep searching and searching and searching. And at some point, when my baby was really like small, I don't know, she was like waking up every 20 minutes at night, the drill.
Yeah.
I was like listening to a podcast, like, let me get 20 minutes of like thinking about something else. And I heard something about human design and I heard somebody talk about being a projector and I had no idea what that meant, but it was like, that's what I am. And suddenly like everything in my life made sense. And I know this is like super exaggerated, but it really felt like that because I was like, on my second burnout before 30 years of age, I have an autoimmune disease that I'm 100% sure comes from not living authentically for so many years.
Okay, yeah.
Living is such a generator when I'm a projector, which we'll get into the details later. But yeah, it was like, I was just like, suddenly everything in my life made sense. And I was like, wow, I need to know more. And then I just started digging. And, 5 years ago or 4 years ago, there wasn't that much information as there is now. It's been like, it has such a huge boom, human design, which is also great and fascinating to watch. So yeah. And then I've always been very creative. I dropped out of school when I was 16 to become a musician. And I like worked in fashion as a model as well. And then, I like studied fashion design and stuff. So I've always been very creative, but I never had anything that's like solid. And I was like, if something ever happens, I think I should have like something solid, like, knowing how to cut hair or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or like I saw my friends playing guitar after a dinner and being like, super just, I don't know, a beautiful way to say thank you for services or, just a way to give something back. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to learn human design is going to be my practical thing is going to be human design. I'm going to be the weird lady who's like, talking about human design at the end of the night to my friends or whatever. That was like my vision.
Yeah.
And then I did the trainer, like the readings, what is it? The reader trainer. what? The reading training in like, I think it was like end of January and February. And yeah, and then the pandemic hit. And all my fashion jobs got canceled. And I was like, well, it's time to step out of the spiritual closet.
Yeah.
And I literally had one friend, shout out to my friend Marsha, in Canada, who was the only one, like we were doing inner child work and like reprogramming and manifestation. Like we were really into like that world. And she was the only person I knew that was into those things. So like I started talking about it on my Instagram. Slowly started introducing this crazy concept of human design. And the feedback was amazing. And then I started doing readings for my friends for free. And then they like, I don't know, it was just word of mouth. People started coming and it's just like totally taken over. And now I'm like booked out a month in advance. So it's
amazing.
It's been insane.
It's funny, isn't it? How you said that because I had the exact same thing as you did. I had a children's wear brand, then I had a women's wear brand, and you're doing everything and working so hard and still nothing. I also moved to LA to study music. I mean, very similar paths in that way. And then finally,
3-5 all the way, Kelly.
Exactly. And then it's like, and then finally you're like, you know what? F this. I can't do this anymore. I'm so sick of working and hitting a wall. Right. And then something must be off. And that's when also my awakening came about. Because I was like, what am I doing wrong? I have all the skills, it's like.
Yes, so yeah. And I feel this happens to so many people. And I'm sure that your listeners can relate. Like we've all been at points where we just don't understand, why am I doing everything and still something isn't working? And it's this whole idea that if I can make it, you can make it the same way I did it, right? Like, I don't know you, but I've been like on 300 million diets. And every time somebody's like, eat what I eat and you'll get my body. Like this has never happened in my life, right? So this is for any business courses that you're taking or, whatever it is, you always see somebody telling you, listen, I got success. If you follow my steps, you will find success. But we are all unique and we are all individuals. So we have to find our own path. And yes, for some, it might be easier if we have like, a blueprint to get to a place. But the only way that we can find our own personal success and our own path, I feel like, is through just following our own intuition and our own ways of doing things. Yeah.
So explain, for someone that doesn't know what human design actually is, explain human design and the concept of it.
Okay. Human design. So the way that I describe human design is the science of our aura. We all have an energetic body, and that is around 2 arms length, 3 meters around us. So if we actually like feel into that space, it's pretty big. And everything in our life is matter, meaning that everything in our life is energy. So once we start understanding our own energetic body, is what I say, we can start playing with the universe. We can actually understand why we feel resistance and how we can get back to that flow. So human design is made out of astrology, the ancient knowledge of the I Ching, the mystic side of Judaism, which is Kabbalah, and the chakra systems, which we know most of because of yoga. But it also includes quantum physics, genetics, and together with your birth date, birth hour, birthplace, you get what we call the body chart, which is the body graph, which is a chart that I feel looks like the clockwork. When you have like old watches and like you turn it around, like an old kind of clockwork. It's a very fascinating thing. If you want to go check it out, you can go to my website, maikegabriela.com, and you can get your chart. There's a link where you can figure out what your human design is.
Nice. And so explain then, because there's 4 different, five different. So explain that, because I'm a generator, you're a generator. Explain what these are in a nutshell, basically.
Yeah. So I think that's very interesting that you said there's 4, because this is what we were talking before, right?
Yeah.
In what I call human design 1.0, generators and manifesting generators were mixed together, but I think it's very important to separate them and give them their own space. Yeah. So we have 5 energy types. One is the projector, which is what I am. The projector is around 20% of the population, and their gift is to be the guides. So they have really an incredible capacity to see things better than other people. And they're not necessarily here to do the hard labor.
Okay.
Then we have the generators, which is what you are, which are like 38%. And you are the doers and the creators, you're pure life force. You have like this sparkling aura that envelops people. And actually your life purpose is not your job description. It is not what you do, but it is how you do what you do. That is so important to fulfill your purpose.
Yeah.
Then you have the manifester, which is my daughter, for example. And the manifester is only 7-8% of the population. They're extremely rare because they have a very strong authoritarian energy. And they're really here to be the leaders and the creators of the new. So these are the people who really invent things from scratch. And they also don't have consistent energy. They have like strong bursts, but they also really have to honor their rest. And then you have the manifesting generator, which is a mix between it's like a hybrid between the generator and the manifester. Okay. So they have these two internal voices, these two cues, and their purpose is to really find harmony between when it's important for them to like listen to their gut feeling and when they're ready to initiate and start to like move things and shake things up. And their purpose is really to create a new path. They are extremely multifaceted. They love a trillion things. So for example, for manifesting generator children, it's super important that they're allowed to try all different things. So if they're into ballet a week and the next week they're into karate and then they want to do piano and then they want to do, I don't know, rock climbing or whatever, allow them to change and don't force them to be like, no, you have to do this one thing till the end. And if not, you're a quitter and you're never like, those are like strong stigmas or conditionings that manifesting generators have. And then we get to the last but not least, what we call the unicorn in human design, which is the reflector, which is only 1% of society or the population. And they are extremely rare and they're very unique because they're the only energy type that doesn't work with the sun, but they work with the lunar cycle. So these are people that when they are connected to their truth, they're super fluid, they're very open, and their character or the way that they present themselves is constantly shifting. They're a mirror to our society, they're a mirror to ourselves, and they're always like a centerpiece. They should be a centerpiece in our friendships, in our businesses, because they really help us see what needs fixing and what works. So reflectors are like extremely fascinating.
Wow. And then as far as the different types, is that better for when it comes to relationships, working environments, certain people kind of connect better than others, or is that more based on your profile?
I mean, honestly, I would say that everybody is really able to connect to everybody when we understand the other. And that's why human design is such a great tool. Yeah. So if we go back and we listen to, so the person that downloaded this human design information into the world is this guy who allowed himself to be called Ra-Uruhu, okay?
Yeah.
And Ra-Uruhu, he was like very dogmatic. And I think with this new consciousness that we're experiencing, with this new growth, with these new voices of human design that are really putting a modern spin on it, that are making things more easy digestible, they're using like, I use so many like pop culture references because I grew up, in 2000s. So this is like my jam. Yeah. But, and I think that again, he talked a lot about like, things can match or like this and this doesn't work. But my experience has proven the contrary. So I really believe that everybody can do well with everybody, but it's really about understanding and putting everybody in a position where they're the best and the most authentic. So the projector, for example, should not be the person who's working 12 hours a day. Actually, this comes with a big surprise. The projector should only work a maximum amount of 4 hours a day. Okay?
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So the projector they also a lot of times say the projectors are the new CEOs because they are the ones who like invented the horizontal like business structure instead of this pyramid thing that the manifestor invented, right? Yeah. So they have an open door, and projectors are really good at asking questions. That's why they work very well with generators, because generators need questions to know how to continue on their path. So the projector is like, they say the new CEO that has the door open, the projector, or like whoever comes in and they ask the right questions. And this is how they guide people towards, the health of the business or the relationship or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, the generator in a business setting is really the person who gets excited when they do what they love. So it's super important that no matter where they are positioned, you love what you do, because as a generator, when you love what you do, the more energy you put into something, the more energy you get out. Right.
Yeah.
So you can be like 12 hours, like on production, doing, crazy stuff. And people are like, how do you have energy? And like generators are like, yeah, let's go, let's do it. And you're like, okay, generator,
Yep. That's so me. It's like unbelievable. It's like everyone's like, when are you going to stop? I'm like, I don't know.
So the manifesting generator is somebody who needs to wear a lot of hats. So even though they can be in one profession, they have to have a lot of freedom. They're the most independent. They are the ones. And honestly, I feel like manifesting generators are the people's like favorite employees, because they're just like, I can do this on my own. I can do this and that, and I'll manage. They can do everything.
Yeah.
And they love being in different positions. So yeah, I feel like the reflector is really here to just reflect back the health of our community, of our business. So having one of them in the center will always allow us to see how we're doing. This is literally their purpose. Like they can do everything and anything, because I've met a lot of reflectors who are like, oh, I'm just supposed to like reflect back. Like, no, like you can do like, crazy stuff. It's not about that. You can be like extremely, whatever your dreams are, you can become that.
Yeah.
But main purpose is that you will be reflecting back to your environment. So everybody has their position, right? And it's the same with the profiles, which the profile is like your karma. It's your life role that you've come to play out. So instead of thinking about that your life purpose is like this job, or having, like this certain amount of money, or, making your life about your job description, it is really about how you can every day show up as authentically as you can, so that you share your gifts with the people around you.
Yeah.
And that will lead you to your ultimate life purpose. So every day fulfilling who you are is your life purpose, if you look at it in the long run, if that makes sense.
Yeah, completely. Yeah. Go on. I'm sorry.
No, sorry. So the profile is this, right? So you and I have the same profile, the 3-5.
Yeah.
Many people think that the thing that makes us similar is the energy type, but actually what makes us understand each other the best is if we have a similar number in our profile.
Okay. Interesting. And then along with the profile, there's all these gates and that basically, how does that all, I mean, I know this is quite complicated because if you haven't seen your chart and anything, but that also is kind of the flow of explain the gates to me as well. And
okay.
Yeah.
So the gates are connected to your energy centers. So the normal chakras are 7 energy centers, but in human design, we have 9 because they are also awareness centers.
Okay.
So we can also look at how you process and absorb informations. If you're highly empathic, if you're very sensitive, these are things that we can see in your chart. Every energy center is also connected to an organ in your body. So many times, like, for example, I have this autoimmune disease. I can look at my spleen, for example, and figure out why I've gotten to that place. We can see, depending on how your chart looks like and your symptoms, we can look at how we can also energetically create like more health into your system. And the gates, which are these little numbers, there are 46 numbers. Each of these gates is connected to a number in the I Ching, and these are your gifts. So these are the things that you have come to share in this lifetime. The way that I describe it is that you can imagine in this energetic body that you have, these gifts are hanging in your aura like Christmas decoration on a Christmas tree. Right. And then people feel attracted to that, because you can imagine these lines that you will see when you discover your body chart, these lines that connect these different numbers or not connect different numbers. So the lines that connect are called channels. The lines that are only half are like hanging gates. This is the words that we use, but you don't have to know them. But these are electromagnetic fields. So they're constantly trying to connect to each other. Why we are attracted to another person, because one of the things I love doing the most is like looking up my, girlfriend's new lover's chart and see how they connect. So what happens is that we can see the chemistry. We can see the sparks flying when somebody has one half and the other person has the other half. Like there are these love gates that you can look at, and they're like super interesting because sometimes you can also see unrequited love, right? So you like feel super passionate about this person and you're like, I want to do this and that. And I'm like so creative when I'm with them, and they make you like moody and like intense. and then they are not feeling the same way towards you, and you're like, why? And in your chart we can look at why. So that's super interesting. Yeah.
That is so cool. That's really, really, really interesting.
I mean, I love it. There's like the Romeo and Juliet connection, like,
Wow.
it's super interesting.
And what happens if, because I've had mine done and I'm looking into my daughter's, what happens if, so I'd love to look into my partner's, but he doesn't know what time he was born. Can you still find that out, or?
Okay. This is a moral question. Okay. I feel like this is a moral question. I personally will not do a reading if you don't know your time.
Okay.
Because I've had people who've literally, they've changed their whole energy type from 15 minutes, from being a projector to a manifestor. Wow. 15 minutes. So sometimes you can go through the whole day and look at every hour, every half an hour, and not a lot of stuff changes. Mm-hmm. But if something big, like your energy type changes, that is for me such an important thing, because even though the numbers that we just talked about and the gifts and all these things, like we humans, we love to know all these little things, mm-hmm. but the thing that you have to the thing where you see the most change in your life is when you start implementing the strategy that belongs to your energy type. So really what differentiates human design from astrology is that you have this like strategy, which is this tangible thing that gives you an actionable step to live energetically aligned with who you are. So once you start doing that, that is where you see the most change. So I would never do a reading without a birth certificate or like a birth time.
Yeah.
There are people who do it.
Yeah.
I personally, morally don't think that's correct. What I can offer is that you connect, there's astrologists who are specified or specific on finding out your birth date or like birth hour.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So that could be an option. That is the option that I suggest if you can't find your birth certificate. Or like there's countries that just like, I don't know, Morocco, Poland, there are people, they just like, they're born and there's no birth time.
Yeah, my husband, I kept asking him, check your birth certificate. And he's born in Germany, but there's nowhere on his birth certificate at the time. And his parents are so old now, they're in their 80s. Like, we don't have any clue when you were born. It's like,
I mean, this has happened, and I would recommend calling the hospital.
Oh, interesting.
Because they should have a record. So they should have a record of the time. If it's Germany, I would say they should have a record of it.
They have a record of everything.
German, so I can tell you we have a record of everything. They should. I feel like, yeah.
And so talk about your work then. And when you are working with someone, kind of, do you have a ritual before you start your session with them? How do you kind of tune in to explaining everything to this person you're going to work with?
Yeah, that's very interesting. It really depends. So generally, I've just like really, what happened was that I started doing human design and I was like super fascinated by Kundalini prior, but nothing really felt interesting because everything aesthetically wasn't matching, and I didn't. And then I found Benshin, who has this amazing course for Kundalini with like super empowered women. Everything's like beautiful, super modern, very fashiony, very cool. And it's interesting because Kundalini, they say, is the technology of your energetic body, and human design is the science of your energetic body. And I was like, okay, this makes all sense. All of this makes sense. So, I feel like I started I've been interested in human design and like doing, learning about human design for 4 years, but I've actually only started it as a business summer last year. Like,
nice.
I started talking about it in June last year. So it's not even like a year old. And then I started Kundalini in August, and I really feel that helped me like take off and really like allow me to release limiting beliefs. And I feel like it's really helped me to align energetically and like having a very clean space for me to have downloads. What makes my readings, I think, special or rare, or what I believe, is like the magic in the readings with me specifically, is that I have what you call a completely opened throat center. So that means that I'm somebody who has no connection from what I speak, from who I am, or what I think. Okay. Right. So my throat is my voice, what I share, even in an interview or whatever, like I can never prepare anything. If I prepare anything, I will lose the wisdom. All my wisdom comes from the outside. So because I have no influence and the information comes from the outside, I'm constantly channeling what the other person needs to hear.
Ah, that's really interesting.
You know, and it's not influenced by my thoughts or who I am. It's really this open channel to receive information that has to come through. Like even before when we were talking, I got goosebumps, right? When we're talking about your father and whatever. So these are this happens all the time, that I get goosebumps and I know like, okay, this needed to come out, you know?
And did you, I mean, was this something that you had to work on, or it just came to you naturally? You were just, because when you opened up your chakras, or, you know, all of a sudden you became basically a channel for other people, right? Or,
you know what? I because I have these like daily practices and I just like keep my energy as clean as possible. And I think the most important thing is having the open heart. I'm reading this beautiful book, or I've just finished reading this beautiful book called The Untethered Soul, which is like a classic in the spiritual. You read it?
I haven't read it, but someone recommended it. So I need to, it's on my list.
So second time, you know, when you hear it a third time, then, you know, it's really like a message.
Yeah.
This Michael A. Singer. And not only that, but also I recently, I mean, I don't know, I'm still fascinated by the fact that the frequency that our heart releases is so big that you feel a person's heart frequency before you meet them. Like it radiates outside the body. And if somebody thinks, like I read this somewhere, they put two people in an MRI, and like the heart frequency of one person got to the frequency of the other person when they were thinking about them.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's something about the heart that I think is super powerful. And I wouldn't say that I do like anything. Like I feel like we all have this innate capacity to tune into things. And I don't want to make it this big thing of like, no, I do this and I do that. No. I'm a 3/5, so I learn by experience. So I need to do things to learn. The best experience has been doing these readings, like so many readings now. And every reading I learn something new. But there's nothing that I've done to prepare. And then like, it's been, you know, a journey, like we all go through our journeys, right? So it's just been like cleaning out stuff of my life, closing doors on people that I don't feel aligned with. And, you know, just like keeping my energy clean, trying to be as authentic as possible, not judging anybody, especially not myself, because the least I judge myself, the least I need to judge other people, you know, just really being able to create a super safe space that allows for people also to open up, because this is also the beauty of every reading, is that every reading is so different and it always depends on how willing the other person is to open.
Yeah.
So sometimes I can see things and I can say things because I see them, but the other person is not ready to share what's really happening. So we can't go that deep. And I totally respect that. Yeah. And then other people, it's really just like crying and like, I feel energy is releasing. And like, so, you know, everybody's different and everybody has different blocks. And for some people, just hearing their own truth is just like such a revelation. And for other people, you know, it takes a couple of days to settle in. So also everybody has a different process to absorb information. And it really, it's completely, that's why I love it so much, because it's always different.
Oh, completely. And have you found people coming back to you saying, after that reading, I completely realigned with my life and I've changed, I've changed everything because of this reading? Because it's quite interesting. When I was going through a really rough time and I had my reading, I was literally underlining things going, oh my God, now this makes so much sense. Where have I been this whole time? I felt like I basically just took the blindfold off. Yes. And I mean, granted, it takes some time to kind of implement all of this stuff, right? It's like you said, it's a journey. It's going to take you a little bit to kind of bring all this into your life, right?
Yeah. I mean, this is the thing. Like, one thing is having, Googling human design until 3 a.m. in the morning, because I know a lot of you do. Yeah. The other thing is getting a reading and really like, having like this, channeling this download that really is like specifically targeted to you. But the only place where you see the shift is when you actually start implementing changes. So again, if you want to compare this to like an astro reading or astro chart or whatever you call it, you get an information, and I think it's super valuable and beautiful, and it can really help you understand who you are and understand, whatever's coming in the future or whatever the things are that you're questioning. But the difference is that human design, you have tools, you have actionable steps. Like you have to start changing things to see results. Only learning about it, because I have people who are like, I've learned all this and I know all of this. So do you know this and this? And I'm like, yeah, like it's great. All this knowledge that you have is great, like good for you. So happy you're excited about this and digging deep and falling into the rabbit hole. But now it's time to implement. Now it's time to live out. Now it's time to take it into the real world. And now it's time for you to change, because that's the scary part, right?
Oh, yeah.
I would say, like, whatever you hear about human design, you can believe in it or not believe in it. Like, you have to start implementing. And once you start implementing, you will see results. And once you see results, you're able to trust. And the more you trust, the more you can implement. And that is when the magic happens. But you have to make this little leap of faith and be like, you know what, universe, just show to me that this is actually something that can work. And then start, just living it out. And, this takes forever. It's not like, even I still learn, and I'm like, okay, shouldn't have done that. Like, okay, go back. So yeah, it's like ongoing.
And do you also find, because I know there was a bit about like nutrition and health, does that also play a big part in human design?
100%. So the thing is that is so fascinating about human design and the way that it talks to us about food and nutrition is that in human design, it should never be dogmatic. It's all about digestion, how you best digest food. And anybody who's ever had digestive issues, which I'm guessing also is so many people, we know that when we don't feel good in our body, we're not able to step into our gifts, because we're stuck in our physicality, right? We're stuck in the uncomfort of a bloating belly, or like what, or like whatever it is that you're going through. When you're not feeling at ease with your body, you're stuck in that body and you're not connected to the divine that is coming through you or that's connected to you. So with human design, we can look at the different digestive types that they are, and there are many. So first, there's the digestion, or the way that every energy type should eat. So for example, the projector is what we call a non-energetic energy type. So we don't have a lot of energy. That's why 4 hours of work. It means we don't have that heat to digest a lot of food. So we're supposed to eat very light, easy digestible foods and small meals around, like during the day, never too little calories ever. But always like just small portions. So even if you have a plate that you'll have for lunch, you can eat, 1 hour, one half of the plate, and the next hour, the next half of the plate, or whatever. As a generator, it is super important that you're excited about what you eat, because that's the only way that you can burn and use that energy, because everything in the generator is connected to the sacral center, which is at the height of the belly button. And the belly button, or the sacral center, is connected to desires and creativity. So what happens a lot, which is, I love this about generators and diet, is that generators many times can gain weight when they're on a diet. So if you're eating quinoa for the last 3 months because you've read somewhere that's the only carb, that's whatever, but for you, quinoa tastes like cardboard, which is what it tastes like to me. And you're super not excited about what you're eating, okay? Or you're drinking celery juice, even though you really don't like it. Your sacral center is not going to be excited. It's going to lower its energy, and the food will be stuck in your stomach and will cause digestive issues. So I have a friend, she's a manifesting generator. When she has stomach issues, she goes eat an ice cream, even if it's 11 in the morning, because she gets excited about it and her digestive issue like starts revving up. And she's like, no, I'm good. Now we can go have lunch, which is, I love it. This is like,
that's amazing.
Yes. So I get super excited about these things, because we have been told, like, there's so much information out there about food, about diet, about whatever, all these things. So I think having this tool that really helps you understand without this dogmatic thing, like, it's not about becoming vegan or doing the keto, paleo, whatever diet. It's really about what is the environment you best digest food in. So for example, I'm somebody who has calm digestion. For me, it's super important to eat in a very calm environment. But I had a client, for example, who was struggling with her weight, and she's a projector. When a projector is always like, does better being on their own or like having some time for themselves. And she was like, struggles so much to eating alone. And then we looked at her digestion, and her digestion was buzzing sound. So for her, it's super important to be around not loud music, but like music or people or in a restaurant environment. And she was like, oh yeah, actually I want to work in a restaurant. I want to like have my own restaurant. And then she started listening to music or a podcast or TV even, everybody's like, don't eat food in front of the TV. But for some people it's okay. And it actually helps them. Then, for example, another one that I think is super fascinating because it's like so contrary to what we've learned is somebody who do you know your digestion?
No, I don't.
Okay. So there's some digestion called indirect light. And indirect light is somebody, for example, for whom it's hard to wake up. And it's not only how you digest food, it's also how you digest life. So indirect light is somebody who should eat the biggest meal when it's dark. So they should start their day light with juices and maybe some fruit and then like get heavier. And when it's dark and when there's no light, that's when they should have the heaviest meal. So having like whatever pizza or like pasta at 12 p.m. might be a good choice for somebody who has indirect light, and no breakfast could be good for them. And when they work, their heaviest load of work should also be done later in the afternoon and at night. So these could be also night owls. Then people like I am, for example, somebody, I wake up in the morning, I love working in the morning. And then after lunch, I'm like done. You can do very little with me. So everybody has a different digestion, and it's very fascinating because it has nothing to do with the stories we've been told from society or like, magazines.
Yeah, that's really fascinating. I want to find out my digestion because recently I found that what I thought my body wanted, it's not. Like certain foods now, like in the middle of the night, I wake up and I'm in a lot of pain, and I feel like I just need to get it out and things like that. And so these things that I thought I could eat, I can't eat anymore. And it might just be that I've tapped into something that's just not meant for me. Right.
100%. You should definitely, the base for you is to eat the things that you're really into.
God, tacos.
There you go.
I would eat tacos every day if I could. It's so funny. I think there's some kind of Mexican lineage in my family because I'm like, yes, tacos. Oh my God.
I love it. Yeah. There you go. That's exciting.
So basically with your program, so you have a few things that you offer. The source code it's called the source code, right? That you you just now launched recently, right?
Yes, I'm super excited about the source code.
Talk about that.
Yeah, the source code is a 26-page booklet, personalized, tailored to you, to your unique design, when you get the most important things about your chart. So this is a written form, but it's completely personalized with your energy centers and like everything, like all the most important things you need to know. You can find information if you go to my Instagram, which is at Make Gabriela. We have a highlight that talks about the source code. So you can get all the information you need. You can always DM me, obviously, asking me whatever you want. Do you know when this podcast is going to be launched?
It's going to be probably in 5 weeks.
Okay. So most probably by then, digestion will be included in the source code.
Cool.
So you will have digestion. You will know what your strongest sense is. So what is the sense that you should trust most to guide you through life? So mine, for example, is smell, which is so funny because my friends call me Doberman because I can smell absolutely everything, where you've been, what you've eaten, who you've hanged out with. Like it's ridiculous. And then you have environment. And environment is also super interesting because it tells you which is the best place for you to be, live, work, where you'll find the least amount of resistance, where you'll find...
I need this.
Well, you'll find the most people that are aligned to you, that are aligned with you, that are meant for you on your path. And yeah, where you just like thrive and you notice. It's insane. So for example, one of my clients has mountains, and he's somebody who's living on the 17th floor on like this skyscraper in Dubai. So it's not literally mountains. You don't literally have to live on the mountain, but it is about the view that you have. So people have mountains. You have like, it's all about that they need a certain perspective. And it's people who always love like looking out from the terrace. And even when they're like, it's interesting because you will see things that you're like, oh, this makes sense.
Wow. Yeah, that's something that I definitely need to figure out. It's interesting because I used to be such a city girl and lived in London for 10 years, then came to Frankfurt, had so much resistance living in Frankfurt. It's unbelievable. And it's one of those things because some people are like, oh, you just need to ground yourself and, stop resisting and everything's going to be okay. But I personally believe that there is a place for everyone. And if you're not living in that place, your body, and I mean, my gut knows it. And it's like every day I'm like, there's just another place for me. There's just another place for me. Don't know where that is yet, but it's true. That makes complete sense that if you're completely aligned with your design, that you wouldn't also be so resistant, right?
No, it's super. You know what's very interesting? So the environment is not something that you necessarily need to seek out. So digestion, strongest sense and environment, they're on like different chart in your human design. They're like deeper level. You look at them through a different like technology. And it's something that happens naturally. The more aligned you get, the more you will move into this environment naturally. What I would recommend to you though is that you should check out astrocartography. Have you looked into that?
No, this is really interesting.
Yeah, astrocartography is astrology for the map for the world. So depending on your astrology chart, there's places for you that are better to live in and others. So for example, very fascinating, my Venus line goes through Vienna. I lived 3 years in Vienna. And even though I had a lot of like resistance in the beginning, I've made the most amazing friends. I felt the most calmest there. Even now that I don't live there, this new community that I found through human design, most of them live in Vienna. Like it's ridiculous how much things pull me back to Vienna. And it's because I have this Venus line there and like my connection with the feminine and friends and all of these things like thrive there. And then if you have like a Pluto line, I mean, I'm not good at this, okay? But if you have like a Pluto line through somewhere, you're going to find a lot of resistance and it's not recommended living there. So you should check that out. There's a page called astrocartography.com. You only see like yesterday I talked to my friend who does this, but she doesn't do it professionally. So I've been trying to get her to do this like for other people a year now, and she's like, nope, not doing it. And I stopped insisting. But I was like, so how is the Maldives for me? And she's like, oh, it's this and that. And I was like, yeah, I feel it. So just look it up. And if not later, I can tell you a bit more, maybe where you can find more information. But it could be very interesting for you because it's really true that some places are like better for us than other places.
It is. It's interesting because, for me personally, Frankfurt's brought on so many opportunities, and I've really had the time to really figure out where I'm supposed to go and digging deep and inner self and all those kind of things. But there's this other like water. I just want to live by the water, but it's quite interesting how maybe in the future I'll live by the water. Just right now, I've got to align first before I can get there. I just find it really fascinating that your human design can also kind of help guide you to that place. Shores are people who are meant to live by the water, or where things are transitioning, where two things melt together. So you can be, even the porch is a shore, right? So it's the entrance of your house and also the outside world. So if you like enjoying sitting on the porch, like that's a shore, for example. This is also fascinating. Yeah, I love a balcony.
Never
there
know.
You go.
I mean, honestly, sometimes it's surprising. I had a client, she's like, no, I'm water. And then I was like, okay, let's take your environment. And the environment was like, mountains. She's like, no, I'm water. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that's fine. Like, I understand people are super attracted to the water. The water is super healing. I mean, I've been spending time in the ocean. Today I went scuba diving and it was just like mind blowing. Yes. So like, whatever. Okay. Focus. And she was like, you know what? It's interesting though. She told me, because yesterday we looked at a new place to move in with my partner and my child, and it was a house in the mountain. And I went there and I was like, so surprised by how well and how good I felt being there. And I was like, you see, don't knock until you try it.
Exactly. So, yeah. Wow. Yeah. I mean, that makes a lot. Yeah. And then that's what human design is so good for though, right? Because you may think you're this, and then you look into it, and then all of a sudden, okay. And then you can just adjust your life slowly or accordingly according to, or I mean, if someone that is a little bit skeptical about human design, what is your advice for them?
Just try it out. You know, this is the thing, like, even if you do human design, there was an article about human design in Forbes, like a couple of months ago, because a lot of startup companies are starting to use human design to be more efficient. And even people who like come from the startup world, who don't believe in any of this, like, it doesn't matter. And it's for me, for example, it doesn't matter who downloaded this information here. It doesn't matter if it's true or if it's not true. The only thing that matters to me is the incredible positive impact it has had in my life, in my family's life, in the people around me, and the people that I've had as clients. You know, like, I can only see the beautiful change that it brings upon people. And it's just this tool to really get to know yourself, to stop fighting yourself, to stop hating yourself, and really appreciating and seeing the gifts that you've come to share in this world.
Yeah. I mean, that's what everyone's searching for, right? They want to know their purpose, you know. And how does this relate to, because you hear so much about dharma. Do you think that human design is including this dharma?
Yeah. So what I think is interesting that you touched upon is this thing about everybody looking for their purpose. So in human design, we have something called the new paradigm. And the new paradigm is the shift that is happening in 2027, which we're relatively close to. Mm-hmm. So there's different life cycles. And right now we are at the tail end of this life cycle that has lasted 2000 years, which is called the cross of planning. And the cross of planning has brought institutions, has brought organization, has brought discipline and structures, all these things we needed to evolve from the Neanderthal to now. So in this new paradigm shift, we're moving away from all this outside authority, like the government, like the school system, like religion. And we're moving into what we call the cross of the sleeping phoenix, which is, in this new paradigm, the shift that is happening, we're moving into an individual circuit where it's all about understanding, who am I? What do I want? Who are you? What makes you? What are your traumas? What are your patterns? Like, all this intense just curiosity that we're seeing around the world. Obviously, the pandemic has impulsed us to like be more inward and have time to search for that. But I feel it's because of a reason, and is because we have to get to 2027 real fast. And a lot of things are changing in 2027, like the way we work, the way that we communicate, which we're already seeing a huge shift right now. Yeah. So this strong need that we're all feeling about looking into who we are authentically, I think is influenced because of this new frequency that we're feeling that is coming in this new paradigm shift.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And do you find that human design also helps with the inner child, the finding the trauma from your past, or is this kind of, yeah?
Yeah. The way that I describe it is that I really believe that we have come whole into this life, and we know exactly what experiences, what relationships, what material things, what chances and opportunities are meant for us in this lifetime. And they're all in this kind of like iCloud that is floating above our head. Mm-hmm. And our aura has the password. Our aura is the bridge that pulls these things that are meant for us into our life. But what happens is that we are conditioned. In this conditioning, we can imagine it's like this grease that's on top of our aura. And this happens because when we are small and we show who we are authentically, and it's not appreciated by our parents, or it's even shamed, or we are punished for showing who we are authentically, this whole part of us gets broken down, and a part of us gets stuffed deep inside us, or what we call in psychology, the lost self. So we literally lose a part of ourselves because it's too painful to embrace it and to look at it. And that is when we have this conditioning, right? So what human design proposes us is that we really dig deep and reconnect to these parts of ourselves that have been too painful or shameful to look at. And when we integrate that truth and we show up who we are authentically, we can pull off that slime of our aura, and we're free to communicate with the things that are meant for us.
That's beautiful. Wow.
Thank you.
I mean, it just makes so much sense, doesn't it? How getting to know yourself, pulling off that veil, to uncover who you are as a person. You know, I because I had to go through the same thing. I grew up in the limelight because my parents were both ministers, and you're kind of conditioned to believe a certain way and be a certain way. And then you realize, but that's not you at all. And so in order to remove that, you have to release the conditioning that you've been through. Yeah. And it makes so much sense. I always find it quite bewildering that people don't want to dig deep. I understand that digging deep, it's going to bring up a lot of shit that you don't want to have to deal with. But the more that you deal with it, the more whole of a person you'll become, right?
Yeah, and honestly, and what I always say at the end of my reading is like, most of us, or the people who come to me, we're, you know, interested in self-growth, and we might have been to therapy, and we might done inner child work, and we do pain work, and we do blah, 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 blah. And all these things are painful and are very intense. And I'm like, you know what? Go and have fun with human design. Like, just go and experiment. It's called the human design experiment. Nothing's set in stone. You go try it out, and then you tell me how something's working out for you. You know, you do you, and you let me know. Because really it's about playing and having fun and being joyful, because that is what life is all about, right? So I want to release that idea of like everything. This is also like a big human design thing. We have to release this idea that everything is a struggle and we can only achieve things when they're hard. Like, new paradigm is like, you follow your excitement, you go like through life with joy. That is your purpose. The reason why you're good at something is because you're meant to be doing what you're good at. They forced me in school, like my parents like forced me to do like mathematics because I was horrible at it. So many years that I hated, and it was such a struggle. Never used anything mathematical in my life, still not great at it. You know, can't change it no matter how much they like made me. So the idea is like, do you want to be excellent in the things that you love, or do you want to be mediocre with something that you don't care about? Yeah. Right. So this mentality is like out the window. You're here to do the things that feel good to you. The more you focus on the things you love, the more aligned you are with your purpose. And sometimes people don't know what they want because they're so conditioned by what other people want from them. They're like so afraid to tune into themselves because they've been told they need like this and this kind of job to be safe, which is also like safety is a complete construct. Right. So it's all about releasing that, having fun, figure it out, try it out. Like, you know, even what I was saying before, like sometimes somebody pushes me and they're like, have a very dominant chart. And then they're like, oh, you should do this. And I'm like, no, it's not aligned. Oh, you should do this. And after they say 3 times, I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it. And then I do it and I feel like shit. And I'm like, I shouldn't have done that. Yeah. And then I learn and it feels like a hangover and it feels really gross and disgusting. And I'm like, yeah, now I know why I shouldn't be doing that. And then, you know, I spend another 9 months without doing it. So it's just like, have fun, explore. What happens if I suddenly eat with my favorite song on or watching TV? Like, you know, what happens? Let's see. Maybe suddenly you're like, oh, all my digestive issues are gone, or, you know, so just have fun, try it out. And if it doesn't work, you can always go back to whatever else you want to be trying or something, you know, but this is the thing, have fun with it. So this is my message for everybody with human design, have fun.
Oh, that's actually, I'm so glad that you said that, because this is the thing as well with your awakening and inner self. A lot of it, okay, you have to deal with some things, but I've been reading a book by Abraham Hicks, and he said, your purpose in life is to experience pure joy. And that is what life is about. And that literally hit me like a ton of fucking bricks. I was like, oh yeah, I'm forgetting to have fun. I'm so serious. Like, I'm here to have fun. Let's have fun. Like, okay, let's do this. And then once you start to have fun, things really start to fall in place as well, because you're, like you said, you're in alignment and you're doing things that you enjoy doing. That's such a good point.
I love how much you connect to that, because that's literally the point of all generators. Like, you're only supposed to do the things that excite you in life. You're only supposed to have fun. Only. This is like your main lesson in life, because what happens with generators is that historically, you have already this karma, not only that you carry a personal karma, but historically you have this karma that because the kings and the conquerors were the manifestors who don't have consistent energy, they used to use generators' consistent energy to do all the hard work for them. So a king would be like, let's conquer that land. And then the generators would like, you know, go and conquer that land as soldiers. And, you know, and this is the thing. So it's really historically for every generator, there's this huge weight around, also this like shame of being selfish or whatever these conditionings are, that you're really here to do only the things that you love. And when you do only the things that excite you and bring you joy, this is your life purpose. This is how I get energy. I need you to be free so that I can do anything at all in life, because I don't have any energy. If generators are not living their life full of excitement, I have no life. So that's why it's important that you like own that and really understand that when you do the things that you love, this is how you uplift people, not by making yourself small and going to everybody individually and being like, oh yeah, I want to help you. I'm not doing what I want because you need this. I'm not doing what I want because my mom or my boyfriend, no. I always say the generators, you're like a fountain. And this is the fountain pressure. The more water there is the more pressure there is, the more you're doing what you love, the more you do what you love, the stronger the water is. And once you only do what you want without compromising, this is when the water can fall onto the other people in your life. And this is how you uplift them.
Wow. Interesting.
You know
Yep. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Yep.
Yeah. We should like totally embrace more joy. Like, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And so one last question I have for you. The podcast is called Editing the Future You. You know, you are helping people edit themselves so they can be aligned with their design. What is your future you? What do you see for yourself?
More joy. I don't know. That's a very good question. I don't know. It's interesting because this is something like, I always feel like you have to live your life how you want your future you to live your life, if you want that future you to look like the future you, right? Yeah. So I don't know. I really, I don't know.
Do you feel like you're living it the way you want to now? Are you pretty happy with your setup now?
Yeah, I'm like so grateful for everything that's happened in the last year. I can't, there's no words for the magic that human design has brought into my life. Just like incredible.
Well, you can tell that you're definitely aligned with what you're supposed to be doing because, the growth that you've already had and how it's developing so fast in the last year. And it is quite amazing that when you're in the right place, the right thing needs to happen, it all just kind of goes, right?
No, it's insane because I was that person who was like, why does this happen to people and not to me? Like, I know everybody out there who's listening and is struggling. It's like, I feel you so much because I was there. And just when I stopped doing what I think I had to do and really just did what I wanted to do, like, it sounds so simple and it's so hard.
So hard.
That step is so hard because we're so conditioned. We so have all these voices in our heads. And even in the beginning, I was like, oh my God, wow. And I'm always booked a month in advance. And then there was 1 month where I was like, okay, this is the first month. And I don't know how many months where I'm not yet booked out in a month. And I was like, okay, this is like, you can just trust. Okay. Learn to trust, to lean into your deservingness. I was like, I'm not going to panic. I'm not going to start doing things out of alignment with my strategy, like writing 120 emails or like reaching out to people because I'm like scared. Yeah. I'm just going to like really trust that it'll work out. And I have no idea how it happened. But in the last week, again, I was like super booked out the whole month in advance. And I was like, after that, I was like, okay. That was like really like this thing where I was like, now I just trust. And
nice.
Yeah, now I just trust. And getting to that space was like also like a beautiful journey.
Yeah, that's a good piece of advice as well. Is you gotta trust the process and you gotta trust yourself, and I think there's a lot of us that forgot how to trust. I did. And as soon as I started following my gut response and following what I felt right, then it's like, okay, I've got this. Yeah. We've got everything we need right here, right? We just have to, like you say, trust. That's really, really Absolutely. Good.
And the other thing also is that one of the things that I learned the hard way, because I've always been very ambitious. I have also the 45 channel, which is like the channel of ambition, but it's like this thing where it's like, we're so trained to think success has to come with sweat and tears. And if you're not successful, you're not working enough, you're not working long enough, you're not working hard enough. If you don't have something, it's because you're not out there getting it. This is not how it works for most of us. Okay. The only person for whom this works is the manifestor, which is like, again, 7-8%, and maybe the manifesting generator. Okay. But for most of us, this whole thing of like going out there and Nike, just do it, #girl boss, like this doesn't work for most of us. Okay. what happens that even though we find resistance, we're like, no, I got to do it harder. Like, I got to work more. I got to invest more. And like, literally, I have this autoimmune disease. I was burnout for the second time of the age of 30 because I was pushing so hard. I was like, if I don't get it, if I don't have it, it's because I'm not doing enough. Mm-hmm. And actually, I had to do so much less, right? Yeah. So now my human design business, I've literally never written not one email to anybody telling anybody, like, I've never tried to sell anybody anything. I've not written one email ever. And I do max 2 readings a day, which is max 4 hours. Of course, I do loads of other work and I work a lot because I enjoy it and I love it. And it's like research and learning. Yeah. But this is the thing. Many times when we are at our bottom, it's an ally. It's help from the universe telling you, hey, listen, this is not the right way for you. Try something new. But we are so focused and headstrong and ambitious. And we're like, I'm going to make this. And our society is like, harder. And they're like, okay, harder. Sometimes it's just not the right path. And that's okay. And that's okay to be like, you know what? Maybe it's not the right thing, because all this thing of like giving up and not following through and all these things are like so in our society, at least they were programmed in my education, that for me to let go of something and be like, okay, I'm going to stop doing something and, you know, try something else. Has always been really hard. So I want to encourage everybody, if you're feeling like you're really like you can't anymore, maybe tune into yourself, because you're the only person who knows that. It's time to look into a new direction.
Yeah, absolutely. And so for those that want to look into themselves and find a new direction, how best to get a hold of you? Through your website or Instagram? What's the best way?
I mean, I think the first thing that you can do, I have loads of really valuable information on my Instagram. I feel I'm very generous. Thank you. I think I'm very generous with the information I share. So you can really go there and look at all the things. And then I offer a one-on-one reading, which is like a one-on-one reading that's, I mean, actually the offerings will change. So I'm going to tell you about the new offerings. Good. Exclusive. Okay. So there's going to be a one-on-one reading offering that's 1.5 hours long. And then I'm doing a more intuitive guiding session, which are 3 sessions where we really like look at what's happening, dig deep, and then we really integrate so that you really have like a guidance of how to live it out and look at your limiting beliefs and really go deep. Nice. I feel like that is really my specialty, being a projector and being able to see things in a different way. My mom's also a psychotherapist, so I feel like growing up with that knowledge really helped me to have like a deeper understanding of like the psyche. Yeah. So those are going to be the things. You're going to be able to have like a human design reading where you get all your information. Really, we go so deep, and it's super fun and super fascinating. And then if you want to have like a more guided holding your hand thing, where you have like this bundle. And then we have the source code, which I think is a great option if you want to start somewhere and don't want to wait a month to be able to like, you know, have a reading with me, get yourself a source code. And then when you have a reading with me, we can go super deep into your channels and your gates and digestion and whatever stuff that you're interested in. Oh, amazing. This is exciting. So for those of you want to dig deep, get a hold of Maike. And thank you so much for being on the podcast with me today. This is fascinating. Yes, love it. Yes, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, it was a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you like what you're hearing, please like us, subscribe, and tell your friends. You can follow us on Instagram, The Future Edit. And for more information about my guest and myself, you can head to thefutureedit.com. Until next time, ciao.